The space outpost was quiet that evening, the kind of quiet that felt heavy. Most workers had already gone to rest, and only a few lights flickered in the long metal corridors. Far from busy planets and crowded stations, this outpost rarely saw anything exciting. Ships came only for repairs, fuel, or quick maintenance. Nothing dramatic ever happened here. But that day, things changed. Jalen, the mechanic who spent most of his time fixing old engines and patching up damaged hulls, was cleaning up his small workshop when a soft beeping sound came from the console. It wasn't a normal alert. It sounded old, weak, like a voice trying to speak after being silent for years. He frowned and walked over, wiping his hands on a cloth. The screen showed a flashing signal. An emergency ping. Not from a planet. Not from a passing ship. But from deep space. Drifting alone. Yalin leaned closer, trying to read the damaged code. It was a distress beacon from a small cargo vessel. Old model. Something that shouldn't even be flying anymore unless someone was desperate or careless. Most of these ships were retired long ago, but someone had forced this one back into service. The signal was weak, as if the ship barely had any power left. He checked the location. It wasn't far, maybe a 20-minute ride in his small shuttle. He stood there for a moment, thinking. He could ignore it. Many mechanics ignored old or half-dead signals, especially in this area. But something about this one felt strange. There was no crew response, no communication, no identification. Just a lonely beacon calling out for help, pulsing slowly like a heartbeat. Jalen grabbed his jacket and keyed in the coordinates. Let's see what's out there, he muttered to himself. The shuttle lifted off smoothly, leaving the outpost behind. The stars stretched around him, cold and distant. As he followed the signal, the abandoned cargo vessel finally came into view. It drifted silently, its outer lights broken, its metal surface scratched like it had been through something rough. Parts of the hull were dented, one wing panel was missing, and the engines looked burnt out. He circled the ship once. No movement. No lights inside. No signs of life. Jalen connected his shuttle to the small docking port on the side. The metal clanked as the two ships locked in place, and his shuttle's pressure system equalized with the silent vessel. The air inside smelled stale, like nothing had breathed here in days. Maybe years. He switched on his wrist lamp and stepped inside. The corridor was narrow, filled with broken crates, spilled tools, and wires hanging from the ceiling. It looked like someone had left in a hurry. Or maybe they had been forced out. But the ship was empty too empty. No bodies. No crew. No personal belongings. Just a hollow shell floating in darkness. Dust floated like tiny stars in the beam of his lamp. Every step echoed. He could hear his own breathing inside his helmet. He checked the crew room empty. Storage area empty. Control room damaged but empty. Then he heard something. A sound so soft he almost thought he imagined it. A tiny scratch. A faint breath. Something alive. Somewhere deeper inside. Yalin turned off his lamp for a moment. The ship was completely silent. He waited. Then it came again. A weak scraping sound, like small paws dragging across the floor, followed by a trembling breath. He felt his chest tighten. Whatever it wasn't strong. It sounded exhausted, maybe even injured. He followed the sound, moving slowly down the hallway. The air felt colder here. At the end of the corridor was a storage compartment with its door half open. He pushed it gently, letting the dim emergency light fall inside. At first he saw nothing. Just shadows and broken crates piled in uneven stacks. But then his eyes caught something curled in the darkest corner. A small shape, so thin it looked like bones covered with pale fur. A creature, shaking silently. Yalin froze. It was unlike anything he had ever seen. It looked like a wolf. But not exactly. Its body was small, maybe half the size of a normal wolf. Its fur was completely white, almost glowing under the weak emergency light. Its eyes were pale, a strange mix of silver and blue. Its ribs showed through its skin as if it hadn't eaten in days. A dwarf albino alien wolf. He had only heard rumors about creatures like this rare. Intelligent, gentle. Some believed they came from distant planets outside common trade routes. Others said they were genetic experiments. No one agreed on the truth, but one thing was clear. This one was suffering. It tried to press itself deeper into the corner when it saw him. Its paws shook so much that it could barely move. It didn't growl. It didn't show teeth. It didn't even try to stand. It looked too weak to defend itself. Yalin crouched down slowly, keeping some distance. "Hey, I'm not here to hurt you," he said softly, though he knew the creature couldn't understand his words. But maybe it could feel his calm tone. The wolf's breathing was rough and uneven. Its eyes blinked slowly, full of fear and exhaustion. Yalin noticed a broken water container nearby, completely empty. A food box too, but the inside was scraped clean. Someone had kept the creature here. Someone had used it, and then left it behind. Yalin felt anger rise in his chest. Whoever abandoned this helpless creature had no heart. He reached into his bag and pulled out a small bottle of water. Very slowly, he opened the cap and set it on the floor near the creature. The wolf sniffed the air weakly. After a long pause, it inched forward so slowly, as if every movement was painful. It lowered its head and took a tiny sip. Then another. And another. Jalen exhaled with relief. "It's okay. Take your time," he whispered. The creature's eyes lifted to him, no longer terrified, just tired. Deeply tired. He knew he couldn't leave it here. Not in this cold, dying ship. Not in this condition. If he walked away, it wouldn't survive another hour. But taking it wasn't simple. Alien animals could be unpredictable. Even gentle ones might panic when moved. But this one was barely holding on. Ian gently pulled an emergency blanket from his bag and spread it on the floor. He then placed a small pillow near it and waited, letting the creature get used to his presence. It watched him with its pale, shaky eyes. Its ears twitched every few seconds like it expected danger. "Let's get you out of here," he murmured softly. He slid the blanket closer, inch by inch, careful not to scare it. The creature didn't resist. It was too weak to fight or flee. With slow, patient movements, Yalin wrapped the blanket around the small body, leaving the head out so it could breathe easily. When he finally lifted it, he felt how light it was. Too light. Like lifting air itself, he carried it through the silent ship, back to the docking port. The creature's breathing was shallow, but at least steady. When they reached the shuttle, he placed it gently on a padded seat and secured it so it wouldn't roll. Before leaving, he looked back once more at the ghost-like cargo vessel. Who would leave such a fragile creature behind? And why? He didn't know yet. But he knew one thing very clearly. This little wolf wasn't going to die alone in a forgotten ship. Not if he could help it. He closed the shuttle hatch, started the engines, and set a course back to the outpost. As the stars blurred outside the window, Yalin glanced at the creature wrapped in the blanket. Its eyes were half closed, breathing slow. But it wasn't trembling as much now. For the first time, it looked like it could rest. And for the first time, Yalin felt this rescue might change his life in ways he couldn't yet imagine. The shuttle hummed quietly as it moved through the dark expanse of space, carrying its fragile passenger. The pale creature lay curled in the blanket, breathing unevenly, and Yalin kept glancing at it every few minutes. He didn't know exactly what it was. No one he had met had ever seen a creature like this, but he could feel it was intelligent in some way, not just a regular animal. Its eyes seemed to watch him, even while it slept, and there was a weight in the silence that made him feel responsible for it, in a way he hadn't felt before. Once they reached the outpost, Yalen carefully carried the small alien wolf into his workshop. The place was cozy by comparison to the cold, empty cargo ship. The lights were warm, the air smelled faintly of oil and metal, and there was enough space for him to set up a temporary bed for the creature. He laid down a thick blanket on a corner of the floor, placed a small pillow under its head, and gently set the creature down. It stirred a little, opening its pale eyes. They were wide and luminous, and for a moment Yalen could almost see the fear and confusion in them. The wolf didn't move to escape. It simply stared at him, trembling, as if trying to understand if he was friend or threat. Yalen crouched down to its level and spoke softly. "You're safe now. You don't have to be afraid." He didn't know if it understood the words, but the tone mattered. The creature's ears twitched, and it tilted its head slightly. Slowly, it relaxed a little, lowering its body to rest more fully on the blanket. Yalen noticed how fragile it was, the bones near its shoulders and ribs almost visible under its thin fur. It hadn't eaten properly for a long time, maybe even weeks. Its small paws were cracked and dirty, and there were scratches along its sides, probably from struggling in the abandoned ship. Jalen knew he had to start carefully. Giving too much food too soon could harm it. He found a small container of nutrient gel in his supplies, the kind used for long space trips. He offered a tiny portion on a flat tray and waited. The wolf sniffed the air cautiously, inching forward to taste it. Its movements were tentative, almost scared, but hunger won over fear. It licked the gel slowly, one careful swipe at a time. "Good?" Yalen whispered. "Take your time. I'm not going anywhere." Over the next few hours, he kept checking on it, bringing small sips of water and feeding little amounts of gel. The creature's breathing slowly evened out, and it began to look a little stronger. Every now and then, it would lift its head and look at him, its eyes filled with a mixture of fear, curiosity, and something he couldn't name. There was intelligence there, something deeper than instinct. Once the creature had rested enough to stop trembling constantly, Yalen carefully examined it. He noticed that its eyes could see better than any animal he had ever worked with. It seemed to notice the smallest flicker of light or movement, and its ears twitched at sounds he couldn't hear. It wasn't just a small, fragile animal. It was something extraordinary, and somehow it had survived alone in a ship abandoned in the vast emptiness of space. He spent the evening cleaning the small cuts and scrapes. The creature flinched at first, but didn't resist. It allowed him to gently wipe the dirt away, trim the edges of small wounds, and apply a mild antiseptic. Yalen was careful not to hurt it, moving slowly and speaking softly all the while. The wolf seemed to trust him more with each careful action, leaning slightly into his touch at times, which surprised him. After he finished tending to the injuries, Yalen sat back and watched the small creature. It curled up again, but this time it didn't tremble as much. Its eyes followed him as he moved around the workshop, and he could see it was curious. It sniffed the air, examining the strange smells of the human space outpost, the tools, the oil, and the food containers. Sometimes it let out a soft, almost musical hum, a sound so faint that at first he thought it was his imagination. He realized that this creature wasn't just a helpless victim. Even in its weak state, there was a presence, a quiet alertness that reminded him of something beyond human understanding. It was aware. It was cautious, yes, but also observing, learning, and thinking. And in its own way, it was starting to trust him. Yalen didn't want to leave it alone in the workshop for the night. He cleared a small area near his bed, moving some tools and boxes out of the way. Carefully, he placed the blanket with the creature close enough so he could see it and respond if it needed anything. He kept one hand resting lightly near the blanket, and slowly the wolf settled, curling into a tight ball. Its breathing was steadier now, and its small chest rose and fell with rhythm. Finally showing signs of relief and safety. The next morning, Yalin woke early. The creature was awake before him, its eyes reflecting the soft morning light from the small window of the workshop. It didn't move immediately, just observed him silently. Yalin smiled and went to the small container of nutrient gel. He put a little on a tray and set it near the creature. It approached cautiously, sniffed, and began eating Got. As the days passed, Yalin noticed gradual changes. The creature started responding more to him, lifting its head when he spoke, sometimes wagging its small, bushy tail in a slow, careful motion. Its strength improved. Its coat, though still pale and fragile, began to look healthier, and the trembling decreased. It could walk short distances around the workshop, though it remained cautious. Yalin began to wonder how someone could abandon such a creature. From the scratches on its body and the empty supplies on the cargo ship, it was clear it had been left without care for days, maybe weeks. Someone had taken it aboard that ship, perhaps for experimentation or profit, and then decided it wasn't useful anymore. And so, they had left it to die alone in the cold metal shell drifting through space. The thought made Yalin angry. He had spent most of his life fixing broken machines and neglected vehicles, but this was different. This was life, fragile and unique, and someone had treated it as disposable. He felt a strong sense of responsibility, stronger than anything he had felt before. He would not let this creature suffer any longer. He started naming small things for it, talking to it as he worked. He noticed it would watch him while he repaired a damaged engine, sometimes even moving closer when he spoke softly. It seemed to understand some of what he said, though not the words exactly. There was a connection forming, a silent understanding. Yalin also noticed the creature's intelligence in other ways. It began observing the tools he used, tilting its head as if trying to figure out what they did. Sometimes it would paw at a dropped wrench or a small device, not randomly, but with intention. It seemed to know, in a way he couldn't explain, that these objects had purpose and could help Dot. By the end of the week, the creature could stand and walk more steadily. It followed Yalin around the workshop, staying close but still cautious. It was beginning to trust him completely. And in return, Yalin found himself thinking about it constantly, worrying if it was hungry enough, warm enough, and safe from the dangers that could appear even in a quiet outpost. One evening, as Yalin finished repairing a small engine module, he noticed the creature sitting quietly, watching him. Its pale eyes reflected the soft light, and for the first time it seemed calm in his presence, as if it had accepted this place as a new home, at least for now. Yalin knelt down beside it, placing a hand gently on its head. The wolf leaned into his touch, a soft hum escaping from its throat. "I've got you," Yalin said quietly. "You're not alone anymore." And for the first time since he found it on that abandoned ship, the small dwarf albino alien wolf allowed itself to feel safe. Yalin realized then that this wasn't just a rescue. It was the beginning of a bond that neither of them would forget. In the empty, cold reaches of space, two lives had found each other, one weak and abandoned, the other human and compassionate, and together they were slowly healing, learning, and surviving. The ship that had once been a place of fear and loneliness no longer mattered. Out here, in the warmth of a simple workshop, surrounded by tools and soft lights, the creature had a chance to live. And Yalin knew he would do everything in his power to make sure it thrived, no matter what challenges lay ahead. Days passed slowly, but with each day, the small alien wolf grew stronger. Its fur, though still pale and soft, began to glimmer faintly under the light of the workshop. Its paws, once cracked and weak, now carried it steadily across the floor. Yalin watched quietly, amazed at the resilience of this little creature. Every movement was cautious at first, but then became more confident. It was as if it was testing the world again, learning how to trust it after all it had been through. Yalin had set up a corner of his workshop with blankets and cushions, a safe place where the creature could rest without being disturbed. He had also set up a small tray with nutrient gel, water, and some improvised soft food. Every morning he would sit near it, speaking in a low, calm voice while it ate. He could see that it recognized him now. Its eyes followed his every move, and sometimes, when he spoke gently, it would tilt its head as if it understood more than a simple human word could express. One morning, as Yalin was cleaning a small engine module, he noticed something remarkable. The creature was sitting a few feet away, staring at a panel of lights on the wall. Its ears twitched, and it lifted a paw, pointing toward a small wire that had sparked earlier. Yalin froze. He walked slowly over, trying not to startle it. "Wait, did you just notice that?" he asked softly. The wolf, small and pale, looked at him with wide, silver-blue eyes. Then it pawed the wire again, nudging it toward him. Yalin realized that somehow it could sense the problem. He examined the wire and saw a small short circuit forming, something that could have caused serious damage if ignored. He carefully fixed it and glanced back at the creature. It was watching him, almost proud, and let out a soft hum that sounded like a quiet sigh of relief, Jale, and couldn't help but smile. This wasn't just an ordinary animal. There was intelligence in every movement, every reaction. It was learning and helping in its own way. He decided to name the creature Lumo, inspired by the way its pale fur seemed to glow softly in dim light. The name suited it perfectly. Over the next few days, Yalin and Lumo began to form a routine. Lumo would explore the workshop carefully, sniffing tools, climbing over boxes, and sometimes sitting quietly, observing Yalin at work. Yalin noticed how sharp its senses were. It could detect a loose screw or a small leak in the engines before he even saw it. At first, he thought he was imagining things, but time and again, Lumo's keen perception saved him from mistakes. It wasn't just its senses. Lumo also reacted strongly to sounds and lights in ways that seemed almost unusual for a normal creature. A soft alarm, a flicker of the workshop lights, or the vibration of the engines would make it move quickly, sometimes nudging objects or alerting Yalin. It was as if it could sense danger or problems before they became obvious. Yalin began to feel a deep respect for the little creature. He realized that the life he had saved wasn't just a passive, helpless one. It was extraordinary. Lumo had survived on its own in a derelict ship, malnourished and frightened. Yet it had adapted, learned, and found a way to endure. Now, in the safety of the workshop, it was beginning to reveal its true abilities. At the same time, Yalin continued to care for it, like a guardian. He bathed it carefully, cleaned small wounds, and applied mild ointments to prevent infection. He cut its claws carefully, making sure not to hurt it. Lumo allowed all of this, sometimes leaning into his touch, sometimes nudging him gently with its small snout. There was trust growing between them, a quiet understanding that they were no longer alone in the universe. One evening, after a long day of repairs, Yalin sat on a stool while Lumo curled up near his feet. The creature hummed softly, a sound that filled the quiet workshop with warmth. Yalin spoke to it as he often did, though he knew Lumo probably didn't understand the words. "You're safe here," he said. "No one will leave you behind again." Lumo's eyes met his, silver blue and luminous. It blinked slowly and shifted closer, almost as if it was saying it understood. The connection was simple, human, and pure. Neither of them needed words to understand that they were partners now, two beings who had found each other in the vast, cold emptiness of space. Over the next few weeks, Lumo grew bolder. It began following Yalin around the workshop, stepping carefully over tools and boxes, watching his every movement. Sometimes it would even help in small ways, pushing a tool closer, pawing at a loose wire, or nudging an object into place. Yalin laughed quietly one day when Lumo nudged a small wrench onto the floor right where he needed it. "You're learning fast," he said, scratching behind its ears. Lumo tilted its head and let out a soft, contented hum. Jalen also noticed that Lumo's reaction to danger was astonishing. When a sudden spark flew from a nearby machine, Lumo leapt back, crouched low, and nudged a nearby container to block it. The instinctive reaction saved a small part of the workshop from damage. It was like the creature could predict small accidents before they happened. The more time passed, the more Yalin realized that Lumo was not just physically remarkable, but mentally extraordinary. Its intelligence seemed almost human-like in some ways. It could recognize patterns, understand cause and effect, and respond to his actions in ways that suggested deep comprehension. One night, Yalin stayed late, repairing a small navigation device. Lumo sat quietly beside him, observing. Suddenly, a low alarm sounded on the console, a minor fluctuation, something that might have gone unnoticed. Lumo's ears twitched, and it stepped forward, pressing a small paw against a button. The alarm stopped. Yalin stared in amazement. You just did that?" he whispered. The little wolf looked at him, calm, as if it had known exactly what needed to be done. It was a small gesture, but it revealed that Lumo's abilities were growing, and that it had more understanding than anyone could imagine. Despite all its strength and intelligence, Lumo remained gentle. It never tried to hurt anyone or anything in the workshop. Its movements were careful and deliberate, almost respectful. It was clear that the creature had survived its past hardships not through aggression, but through awareness, patience, and adaptability. Yalin began to think about the abandoned ship where he had found it. Someone had left Lumo to die because they didn't understand it or didn't care. But now, in his workshop, it was thriving. It was learning, adapting, and even helping him in small ways. Yalin felt a deep sense of responsibility, not just for its survival, but for nurturing its potential. As Lumo grew stronger, a routine developed. Morning feeding, careful exercises, observation of the workshop, and small interactions with Yalin. The creature was curious and intelligent, but also cautious. It seemed to understand that the world was safer now, but it remained aware of potential threats. Sometimes, Yalin would bring small objects from outside to test its reactions. Lumo would sniff them, paw at them, and examine them closely. It learned quickly, memorizing shapes, sounds, and movements. It began responding to subtle gestures, following simple commands, and even anticipating Yalin's needs. Yalin found himself fascinated by every little thing. He could see how extraordinary Lumo was. He also felt a bond growing stronger than anything he had experienced before. It wasn't just care, it was companionship. Lumo wasn't a pet. It was a partner, an intelligent being who trusted him fully and depended on him in ways both obvious and subtle. One evening, as they sat together, Yalin realized something important. Lumo had survived unimaginable neglect, abandonment, and malnutrition. Yet it hadn't lost its spirit, its curiosity, or its gentle nature. It had endured. And now, in his workshop, it had a chance to become more than it ever could have been on its own. Yalin looked down at the small wolf curled near his feet. Its breathing was calm, its eyes half closed in relaxation, but every now and then it lifted its head, alert and aware. It had grown stronger, smarter, and more confident in a short time. He reached down and stroked its pale fur gently. "We'll take it slow," he whispered. "You'll grow stronger every day. And I'll be here, every step of the way." The little wolf responded with a soft hum, curling closer. In that moment, Yalin knew their bond was real. It wasn't just about saving a life, it was about understanding, trust, and friendship. Lumo had survived alone in the vastness of space, and now it had found someone who would protect it. Someone who would see it not as an experiment, not as a tool, but as a living being with potential, intelligence, and heart. And for the first time, Yalin felt that the creature he had rescued might not just survive, it might thrive. The days at the outpost had grown quiet and calm, yet in that calmness, Yalin could feel something stirring. Lumo, the small albino alien wolf he had rescued, was no longer weak or timid. It moved around the workshop with a quiet confidence that surprised him every day. Its fur had grown thicker and softer, almost glowing faintly under the soft lights, and its eyes now seemed brighter, sharper, almost intelligent in a way that went beyond simple instinct. Yalin noticed small things at first. Lumo seemed to understand more than he expected. When he was repairing engines or sorting tools, the wolf would sit nearby, observing carefully. Sometimes it would nudge a tool or step forward as if it knew what he needed before he even reached for it. Yalin had seen many pets in his life, even exotic ones from far planets, but none had the awareness that Lumo showed. One morning, he was cleaning the small navigation module when a sudden vibration ran through the workshop. A tiny spark had jumped from a cable, and it could have started a fire. Lumo reacted immediately. It leapt in front of the wire, pawing at it, nudging it toward a safe corner, and then backed away, watching. Yalin stared, mouth slightly open. He could see that the creature had not only noticed the danger, but had acted to prevent it. It was a small gesture, but it was also proof that Lumo was alert, aware, and capable of understanding consequences. "You're amazing," Yalin whispered softly, reaching down to scratch behind its ears. Lumo leaned into his hand, making a low hum that sounded almost like a sigh of satisfaction. The wolf's abilities became more obvious with each passing day. It had an extraordinary sense of hearing, able to pick up even the faintest sounds outside the outpost. It would tilt its head at distant engine hums, or the soft vibrations of other ships docking nearby. Yalin noticed that Lumo would sometimes stand still, ears raised, eyes focused, and react before he even heard anything. Its sense of awareness was remarkable, almost like it could feel the movement of space itself. Lumo's sight was equally astonishing. One evening, while Yalin was repairing a small control panel, he accidentally dropped a tiny screw. It rolled under a large crate. Before Yalin could reach for it, Lumo's paw shot out from behind the crate, catching the screw perfectly. He laughed in disbelief. "How did you see that?" he asked. The wolf simply blinked, then nudged another tool toward him, as if to say, "I'm helping." Beyond its intelligence and senses, Lumo showed another unique trait. It had an intuitive understanding of people and emotions. When Yalin felt frustrated or tired after long hours of repairs, Lumo would approach quietly, resting its small head on his knee, nudging him gently with its snout. It never demanded attention, but it offered comfort in a way that was almost human. Yalin found himself smiling after long days, feeling a strange relief just from the presence of this small creature. Over time, their bond deepened. Yalin began talking to Lumo constantly, explaining what he was doing, sometimes even sharing stories from his past. He wasn't sure if Lumo understood the words, but he could see the wolf's attention shifting, its ears twitching, eyes focusing on him. Sometimes Lumo would respond with a soft hum or a tilt of its head, almost as if acknowledging what he was saying. It was a silent conversation, but a powerful one. Lumo also began to explore more of the outpost. At first, Yalin had kept it confined to the workshop for safety, but now the creature showed curiosity and intelligence that made him realize it could navigate more complex spaces. One day, he opened the door to a small storage area. Lumo hesitated, then stepped in, sniffing around carefully. It explored every corner, learning the layout quickly. By the end of the hour, it was moving confidently, returning to Yalin to nuzzle him before exploring again. But the most astonishing discovery came unexpectedly. Yalin was repairing a malfunctioning light panel when Lumo suddenly approached and placed a paw on the wires. Instantly, the panel flickered to life, working perfectly. Yalin froze. "Did you just fix that?" he asked quietly. Lumo's eyes met his, calm and alert, and it stepped back, as if proud but not showing off. Yalin realized then that the creature's abilities went beyond observation and awareness. It could interact with technology in ways he couldn't explain. Over the next few days, Yalin experimented carefully. He would place small devices near Lumo, sometimes broken, sometimes just turned off. Time and again, Lumo would paw, nudge, or move in a way that fixed or activated them. It wasn't random. It seemed to understand the function, the purpose, and the outcome. Yalin felt a mixture of amazement and unease. He had never encountered a creature like this. It was intelligent, empathetic, and gifted, yet it remained gentle and loyal. The more Yalin observed, the more he realized how much trust Lumo had placed in him. The creature had been abandoned once, left to die in a cold, empty ship, yet now it followed him willingly, offered comfort, and even assisted him in small ways. Lumo had survived alone in space, malnourished and frightened, but it hadn't lost its instincts, intelligence, or spirit. It had endured and adapted, and now, in the safety of the outpost, it was thriving. Their days became filled with quiet routines, little adventures, and growing understanding. Yalin would often take short breaks from repairs, just to observe Lumo, exploring or interacting with the workshop. He learned its habits, its moods, and even its quiet ways of communicating. The wolf would hum softly when content, tilt its head when curious, and nudge or paw gently when trying to show interest or offer help. One evening, Yalin sat on a stool, exhausted from a day of repairs. Lumo curled up near his feet, resting its head lightly on his shoe. The creature's breathing was calm, and its soft hum seemed to fill the quiet room with warmth. Yalin looked down at it and smiled. "You've come a long way," he whispered. "You're not the same as when I found you. You're stronger, smarter, braver." Lumo lifted its head slightly, silver blue eyes meeting his, and let out a soft, almost musical hum. It was a sound of trust, of companionship, and of understanding that words could never fully capture. Yalin felt a deep sense of connection. He realized that this little creature was not just a survivor, it was extraordinary. And it had chosen to share that trust with him. The Wolf's abilities were becoming more evident each day. Lumo could sense danger, respond to mechanical problems, and even assist in ways that seemed almost deliberate. It had learned to communicate in its own way, through gestures, hums, and movements. And it had formed an unbreakable bond with Yalin, one built on care, trust, and shared experience. Jalin also realized that Lumo's presence was changing him. He felt more attentive, patient, and aware. He began thinking ahead, not just for himself, but for the small creature who had survived so much. He planned their days carefully, ensured Lumo had rest, food, and safety, and took time to understand its moods and behaviors. Every small gesture, every nudge or hum from Lumo felt significant. The bond they shared became more than just caretaker and rescued creature. It was partnership. Lumo had survived alone in the darkness of space, abandoned and weak, but now It was not just living, it was thriving. And Yalin knew that whatever challenges might come in the future, they would face them together. Their quiet days were a mix of discovery, care, and companionship. Lumo explored, learned, and sometimes helped in small ways. Yalin worked, observed, and nurtured. And slowly, day by day, the little alien wolf revealed more of its remarkable nature, intelligent, empathetic, and gifted in ways that still amazed him. Yalin realized that saving Lumo had not only given the creature a second chance at life, but it had also changed him. The quiet, lonely workshop was now alive with energy, curiosity, and trust. And in the soft glow of the lights, as Lumo hummed quietly near his feet, he felt a sense of hope he hadn't known he needed. The abandoned ship, the malnourished wolf, and the long days of care had led to this moment, a quiet partnership, a bond of trust, and the beginning of something extraordinary. Yalin understood that Lumo was no ordinary creature, and that their story was just beginning. The quiet days at the outpost had given Yalin and Lumo a rhythm, a routine of care, exploration, and quiet companionship. But that peace was not going to last. It happened late one night. The workshop lights flickered, then dimmed as the power fluctuated. Yalin frowned, adjusting the console. Small ships were rare visitors here, and usually they communicated before arriving. But this wasn't a normal signal. It was the kind that sent a chill down the spine. Someone or something was coming, and they weren't friendly. Lumo, curled up near the blankets in its corner, lifted its head and perked its ears. Its silver blue eyes glowed faintly in the dim light. The wolf hummed softly, a low sound, alerting Yalin without any overt motion. He looked at it and felt the same unease that the creature clearly felt. It had been calm for weeks, but now it was tense, alert, ready. The communication panel crackled. A voice came through, rough and sharp. "We know what's here. Give us the creature. It belongs to us." Yalin stiffened. He had suspected someone might come for Lumo one day, but hearing it now made his heart race. "We're not giving it to anyone," he said firmly, pressing a button to activate the security doors. The voice laughed. "You don't understand. That creature is worth more than you can imagine. Hand it over, or we take it by force." Yalin's mind raced. He glanced at Lumo. The wolf was tense but calm, its body low, muscles coiled as if ready to react. He realized in that moment that Lumo had been preparing too. Its senses, its intelligence, its awareness, they were all heightened now, and he understood that it wasn't just a helpless companion. Lumo could help protect itself. The first attempt came quickly. A small group of scavengers arrived in a shuttle, attempting to dock forcefully. The outpost's alarms blared, and Yalin activated security shutters to prevent them from entering easily. But the scavengers were clever. They had studied old docking systems and tried to override the doors. Lumo reacted immediately. It darted from its blanket and moved along the workshop floor, silent and swift. Its movements were precise, almost as if it knew the layout better than Yalin did. It pawed at a control panel, nudged wires, and activated a series of safety systems that confused the intruders. Lights flickered, doors slammed in their path, and a loud siren forced the scavengers to pause. Jalin watched in awe. He had always suspected Lumo was clever, but now he realized it could think, strategize, and act under pressure. It wasn't just instinct, it was intelligence and awareness combined in a remarkable way. The scavengers tried to override the security again, but Lumo anticipated their moves. Every time a door opened, the wolf was there, using small, precise gestures to block their access or activate alarms. Yalin realized that Lumo was more than a companion. It was a guardian. One of the scavengers tried to enter through a side hatch. Lumo was already there, crouching low and growling softly. The sound wasn't loud, but it carried a strange authority. The scavenger hesitated and tried to push past. Lumo leapt swiftly, its small body striking with surprising strength, knocking the intruder back. Yalin was shocked. The creature's size was small, but its power, speed, and precision were extraordinary. Alen grabbed a tool and moved to help, but Lumo barked softly, a sound that stopped him. The wolf didn't need him to fight. It was capable of defending itself and the workshop. Yalin stepped back, letting Lumo take the lead. The next attempt was cleverer. One of the scavengers tried to cut a cable that controlled the power to the shutters. Lumo reacted instantly. It pawed at the cable, nudging it out of reach, and activated a small bypass system that kept the doors closed. Sparks flew, alarms blared, and the intruders realized they were being outsmarted at every turn. Jalen was amazed. Lumo wasn't just protecting itself, it was protecting him too. Every movement, every decision was calculated, precise, and effective. He had rescued this creature weeks ago, but now it was saving both of their lives. The standoff lasted hours. The scavengers were frustrated, trying to find a way to breach the workshop. Lumo moved silently, weaving through the shadows, activating alarms, and using the environment to its advantage. Its small size allowed it to move quickly, dodge obstacles, and anticipate the intruder's moves. Yalin realized that the wolf had instincts honed from survival, and intelligence that far exceeded any normal animal. Finally, the scavengers retreated. They realized that breaking in would cost them too much time, and that the creature they sought was not just clever, it was dangerous to their plans. They left, warning that they would return, but they did not take Lumo.jale and let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. He knelt down beside the wolf, who had returned to its corner, alert but calm now. "You are incredible," he whispered. Lumo hummed softly, brushing against his hand. It was a small gesture, but full of understanding. The wolf had faced danger, protected them both, and survived with intelligence and strength. Over the next few days, Yalin reinforced the workshop, adding extra security measures and observing Lumo's reactions. He realized that the wolf's abilities were not just helpful, they were extraordinary. Lumo had developed skills far beyond what he had imagined when he first rescued it. It could sense danger, react to threats, and use its intelligence to protect both itself and him. The bond between them grew even stronger after the attack. Yalin noticed that Lumo would watch his face, respond to his gestures, and even anticipate his movements. It was no longer just a companion, it was a partner, alert and aware, ready to act when needed. Jalen also reflected on the danger they had faced. The scavengers were persistent, but they had underestimated Lumo. The wolf's strength was not just in its physical abilities, but in its intelligence and awareness. It could read situations, understand threats, and respond with precision. And it had chosen to protect him, just as he had chosen to protect it. The incident left both of them more cautious, but also more confident. Lumo had proven that it could handle threats, and Yalin had learned to trust its instincts completely. Together, they had survived an attack that could have been disastrous. As the days went on, Yalin continued to care for Lumo, but he also began planning for the future. He knew that the scavengers might return, and that they could be more dangerous next time. He thought about safe places, ways to protect the creature, and how to ensure that Lumo could live without fear. Lumo, in its quiet way, seemed to understand. It would sit near the entrance of the workshop, alert and watchful, ears twitching at the slightest sound. Its body was tense, ready to react, but it also remained calm, showing the intelligence and patience that had saved them both. Together, they had faced danger, survived, and grown stronger. The wolf's abilities had been tested, and it had proven itself to be extraordinary. Yalin knew that their bond was unbreakable now, forged in care, trust, and shared experience. He also knew that the future might bring more challenges. The scavengers could return, and new threats might appear. But he felt a deep sense of confidence. With Lumo by his side, he knew they could face whatever came. The little albino wolf, once abandoned and weak, had become a protector, a partner, and a friend. In the quiet of the workshop, Yalin looked at the wolf curled up near his feet. Its eyes glimmered in the soft light, alert and aware, yet calm and trusting. He smiled. "We've come a long way," he whispered. "And we're just getting started." For the first time, he felt that they were truly ready for anything. Together, they had survived abandonment, starvation, and danger. Together, they had built trust, learned from each other, and grown stronger. And no matter what challenges lay ahead, Yalin knew that Lumo would always be there, alert, intelligent, and ready to protect the life they now shared. The night was quiet again, but this time, the silence was different. It was a silence of confidence, trust, and companionship. They had faced danger and survived. They had formed a bond that went beyond words. And in the soft glow of the workshop lights, Yalin knew that nothing could break the connection between him and the little albino wolf who had once been abandoned, but now had a home and a protector by his side. The days after the scavenger attack were calmer, but there was an unspoken tension in the outpost. Yalin and Lumo had survived, but both knew the danger wasn't gone. Every sound, every flicker of light made them pause. Yet, at the same time, there was a new confidence between them. They had faced a threat together, and they had survived. They had learned to trust each other completely, and that trust was stronger than any fear. Lumo had grown even more capable over the weeks. Its fur had thickened, its movements were swift and precise, and its intelligence seemed to shine brighter with each passing day. The wolf now moved freely around the workshop, exploring, learning, and occasionally helping Yalin with small repairs or adjustments. It had an instinct for sensing problems, and sometimes it acted almost like an assistant, pawing at tools or nudging objects in the right direction. Len spent time thinking about what kind of life Lumo deserved. He realized that it couldn't just stay confined to the workshop forever. This creature had survived the emptiness of space, malnutrition, and fear. It had endured abandonment and danger. It had a strength and intelligence that deserved more than a single small outpost. It deserved safety, freedom, and the chance to live fully. He began planning carefully. Supplies were gathered, the outpost reinforced, and escape plans mapped out in case the scavengers returned. But more than that, he thought about a home, a place where Lumo could live safely, grow stronger, and not just survive but thrive. It was a big task, but Yalin felt ready. After all, he had learned over the weeks that Lumo wasn't just a small, fragile creature. It was resilient, intelligent, and capable of forming bonds that went far beyond simple companionship. One morning, as he was checking the life support systems in the workshop, Lumo approached and sat quietly beside him. Its silver-blue eyes reflected intelligence, curiosity, and a calm awareness that made Yalin smile. "I think it's time we find a better place for you," he said softly. Lumo tilted its head, listening carefully, as if it understood. Len began working on modifications to the shuttle. He reinforced the hull, improved navigation, and added storage compartments for food, water, and supplies. Every adjustment was made with Lumo's comfort and safety in mind. He also trained the wolf to follow commands that would keep it secure during travel. Lumo learned quickly, understanding gestures and tone, responding without hesitation. The day finally came when everything was ready. Yalin packed the shuttle with essentials, nutrient gel, water, blankets, and some small toys and items for Lumo. The wolf followed him, calm and attentive, moving confidently but keeping close. There was a quiet understanding between them. This journey was the beginning of something new. A new chapter in both of their lives. As they lifted off from the outpost, Lumo pressed its small body close to Yalin, but it didn't hide or cower. Its eyes scanned the shuttle, alert to every sound, every movement. Yet there was a trust that told Yalin it felt safe. The stars stretched out before them, vast and infinite, but this time the emptiness didn't feel threatening. Together, they were ready to face whatever lay ahead. The journey was smooth, but Yalin remained vigilant. He knew the scavengers could still be out there, looking for Lumo. He monitored the sensors constantly, but the wolf seemed calm, almost aware of the surroundings in ways he couldn't explain. Its presence was reassuring, its instincts sharp and reliable. After several hours, they reached a distant planet known for its safety and isolation. It was a place few ships visited, but it had abundant natural shelters, fresh water, and space for exploration. Yalin had chosen it carefully, knowing that it would give Lumo freedom, safety, and a chance to live naturally. The moment they landed, Lumo jumped from the shuttle with careful, precise movements. It sniffed the air, stretched its small limbs, and took cautious steps into the new environment. The planet was quiet, calm, and safe. Trees with silver-green leaves rustled in a gentle breeze. Streams reflected the light of the twin suns, and the air was clean and fresh. Jalen followed slowly, watching Lumo explore. The wolf moved confidently now, its tail low but steady, ears twitching at every sound, eyes scanning the surroundings. It sniffed at the ground, investigated small plants, and cautiously approached a stream to drink. Each action was deliberate, careful, and full of intelligence. "You're going to like it here," Yalin whispered. "It's all yours." For the first time, Lumo seemed completely free. It ran a short distance, leaping over rocks and bounding across the soft ground. Its movements were graceful and powerful, a testament to its resilience and growth. It returned to Yalin, pressing its small body against his leg, eyes bright and alert. The bond between them had grown deeper than ever. They had survived together, learned from each other, and now shared the promise of a safe future. Jalen spent the next few days setting up a small shelter and preparing the area. He made sure there were safe resting spots, places to hide if needed, and enough food and water. Lumo explored constantly, growing bolder, more confident, and more independent with each passing hour. It chased small creatures, sniffed plants, and even began digging carefully in the soft soil, discovering the world in ways it never could have aboard a ship. At night, they would sit near a small fire Yalin made. Lumo curled up beside him, breathing softly, sometimes humming faintly, as if reflecting on the day's discoveries. Yalin looked at the creature and smiled. "You've come a long way," he said, "from a tiny, malnourished wolf abandoned in a ship, to this, a new life." Lumo's eyes met his, bright and intelligent. There was no fear, no uncertainty, only trust, understanding, and a quiet happiness. Yalin realized that the wolf had adapted, learned, and grown stronger than he could have imagined. Its journey was not just survival, it was transformation. Days turned into weeks. Lumo thrived in the new environment. It hunted small prey, explored the forests, and even learned to anticipate weather changes and natural events. Its intelligence and instincts combined to create a creature that was both extraordinary and gentle. Yalin marveled at its abilities daily. The bond between them was unbreakable. Lumo would follow him when needed, protect itself when necessary, and offer companionship and comfort at every moment. Yalin knew that he had done more than rescue a creature. He had given Lumo a life, but the wolf had given him something equally important: trust, loyalty, and a reminder of what courage and resilience could achieve. Together, they had survived abandonment, danger, and fear. Together, they had grown stronger, learned from each other, and discovered the meaning of companionship in the most extraordinary circumstances. One quiet evening, as the twin suns sat over the horizon, painting the sky in soft gold and violet, Yalin and Lumo sat side by side. Lumo's soft hum filled the air, and the gentle breeze ruffled its fur. Yalin reached down, brushing a hand along its back. "You're safe now," he whispered. "No one can hurt you here. You're home." Lumo leaned into his touch, eyes closing slightly, relaxed and content. The wolf had survived the emptiness of space, malnutrition, abandonment, and danger, and now it had a place to belong. A place where it could live freely, grow stronger, and be happy. Jalin watched the horizon, feeling a deep sense of peace. The journey had been long and difficult, but the outcome was everything he had hoped for. Lumo had been saved, nurtured, and given a future. And in return, Lumo had given him loyalty, companionship, and the unspoken understanding that they would face life together, whatever challenges might come. As night fell, stars filled the sky. The workshop, the abandoned ship, the danger of scavengers, all of it seemed far away. Lumo curled up next to him, breathing softly, calm, safe, and alert. Yalin smiled and leaned back, feeling the weight of worry lift. They had survived the impossible together, and now, in this quiet, safe place, they could finally rest, for the first time. He realized that the story of rescue, survival, and companionship had reached a peaceful conclusion. Lumo had not only survived, it had thrived. And Yalin had not only saved a creature, it had changed his life. They had discovered a bond that went beyond words, beyond fear, and beyond survival. Under the stars, in the quiet of a safe world, Yalin and Lumo rested side by side. One life saved, another enriched, and both forever changed by the journey they had shared. It was not just the end of danger. It was the beginning of a life filled with trust, freedom, and the quiet joy of companionship. And for the first time in a long time, both of them felt truly at home.